أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu and welcome to our class today. Jazakumullah for arriving on time. I hope and pray that you are all doing very well and keeping safe. As always, please make sure that you are logged in with the correct ID because IDs that are logged in correctly will be allowed on the mic and asked to participate in the class today. So it's really important that you are logged in with the correct ID. Please also make sure that your heads are covered and that you have done wudu before you enter the classroom today. And please also make sure that you're sitting in a nice and quiet place so that we're all able to hear you clearly when you come to the mic. Jazakumullah. So the agenda for today's class is on your screens in front of you. We'll start shortly with our opening dua. We'll then move on to some practice text. And in today's class, we'll be having a look at a presentation all about the correct tilawat rules for the Surat Al-Fatiha. Okay, and we'll be having a look at a few verses from that surah in today's class. We'll then move on to our next segment, which is on hard words, and we'll be looking and practicing 3 hard words found in the Holy Quran. We'll then have a look at another practice text, and that will be continuing from the surah that we've been covering this week, Surah At-Takallum, and we'll be carrying on from where you left off yesterday. So carrying on from verse 21. We'll then end the class with the normal procedure of summarizing the lesson, assigning homework, and dua. So let's start with our opening dua now. And if you could have our first student on the mic, please.
G2193.
Jazakumullah. G2193. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you today?
I'm good, and you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Jazakumullah for asking. We're going to do this dua today. So if you could recite after me, please. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Yep, if you could recite Dawud and Tasmiyah for me now. G2193, are you still there?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Okay, I think there's a slight delay in the sounds. So let's start with this dua. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a.
Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a.
Excellent. Well done. Really nicely read. And could you read the translation for me now, please?
Oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial
Okay, well done. So, oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge.
25.
Well done. Excellent. Okay, Jazakumullah for your participation. I think there was a slight delay in the sounds. That's why we couldn't hear properly. But Jazakumullah, that was really good. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do now, as I had just explained in the agenda, is that we're going to have a look at a presentation in today's class all about Surat Al-Fatiha. Okay, and we're going to look at all the rules for correct tilawat. Okay, so we'll be going through Surat Al-Fatiha verse by verse and pointing out a few rules that probably are common mistakes that it's easy to make and we should be careful of when reciting this surah. Okay, and Surat Al-Fatiha is a surah which I'm sure all of you know off by heart and are very, very familiar with, because this is a surah that is read in each and every one of our 5 daily prayers. Okay, so it's a very common surah that we read, which makes it even more important that we are able to correctly pronounce each and every part of this surah. Okay, so we'll be having a look at that in this presentation. So at the bottom of your screen, I'd just like to read out this quote from the book Kashti-e-Nuh, page number 20, which is a book written by the promised Messiah alayhi salam, in which he says, "Read the Holy Quran with the utmost attention and deepest thought. You should love it as if you have never loved anything else." So such a beautiful quote and words of wisdom that we should all try to inculcate into our lives. Okay, so let's move on. So on your screens in front of you now, you should be able to see Surat Al-Fatiha. Okay, now this isn't the whole of the surah, as some of you may have noticed. It's just the first 4 verses that we're going to be looking at in the first bit of our class today. Okay, so I'll start with Dawud and Tasmiyah, and then we'll move on to the second verse and see what things that we have to look out for. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Okay, now in this second verse over here, so Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim was the first verse, second verse is this over here. So the first thing that we have to take care of in this verse over here is that we don't linger on the lam or the meme. Okay, so lam sakin and meme sakin, we shouldn't stay too long on the sound of that. Okay, so we should just say it and carry on. Don't spend too long on the sound of the lam sakin or the meme sakin. Also, we have to make sure that the sound of the ha comes from the middle of the throat. So it's really important that we're pronouncing that correctly as well. Okay. Another thing that we have to look out for in this verse is that we have a mushaddad lam where it's circled. Okay. We have a mushaddad lam, which means we have to join the first lam. So this lam with a kasra joins onto this lam mushaddad. Okay. And we have to press down on the mushaddad lam. So we know that whenever we see a shadda, it makes that letter a mushaddad letter. And any mushaddad letter, we need to press down on that mushaddad letter. So in this case, the lam mushaddad needs to be pressed down on in our recitation. Okay. We also have a vertical fatha on the lam mushaddad, which means we have to make a sound of 2 seconds only. Okay, no more and no less than 2 seconds being spent on that vertical fatha on the lam. Okay. Next, we have a mushaddad ba. Okay, we have a shadda on the ba, so it's a mushaddad ba. We have to join the ra and the ba together. We have to press down on the letter ba, okay, because it's a ba mushaddad. After that, we have a lam sakin. Okay, we can see over here, this is a lam sakin. It joins on to the most recent mutaharrik letter, and we must ignore the letters in between. So the most recent mutaharrik letter before this lam sakin is the ba mushaddad, because it has a kasra underneath it. So whenever we join that together, we can see that there's an alif in between, which we must ignore in our recitation. Okay, so the ba joins to the lam, alif is ignored in our recitation over here, this alif. Okay, then we have an ayn, okay, and it has a vertical fatha on top, which means again 2 seconds need to be spent on that. The letter ayn should be softly pronounced, and the sound is to be made from the middle of your throat. Really important that we're pronouncing that correctly as well. At the end of the verse, we have to pause on the noon. Okay, the fatha on top of the noon changes into a sukoon. We know this from the rules of pausing that we've looked at before. Okay, we also see that at the end of this verse, there is a ya mad before the pause. Okay, that means that we have to stretch the sound of the mud for 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds. Okay, that's the rule that we've already looked at before. Whatever time you decide to stretch on this, stay with the same timing throughout your tilawat. It's really, really important. So it mustn't be that you're spending 2 seconds over here, and then for the next verse, you're spending 4 seconds on the ya mad over here, or 6 seconds on this ya mad over here. So it must stay continuous throughout the verse, throughout the surah. Okay, now let's do some reading practice. So if you could have a student on the mic, please.
Yep, G2 108.
Jazakumullah. G2 108. Assalamu alaikum. G2 108. How are you today?
I'm good, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, that's really good to hear. So you've just been listening to me tell you about all the rules that we have to look out for in this verse over here. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you could just read Tawud and Tasmiyah for me nice and slowly with a nice melody, and then we'll carry on, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Excellent, very nicely read. So over here, okay, so I'm going to read this verse once, and then I'd like you to repeat after me. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Excellent, well done, really nicely read. Now over here, this is the letter Ain, and as I just said, the Ain seems to be made from the middle of the throat. Okay, so let's try this sound one more time. Alameen.
Alameen.
Much better, well done. So what we mustn't do is make the same sign for Ain as we do for an Alif. Okay, so for example here, this is Al, so this is Alif sound. Okay, this is an Ain, so it needs to be, you need to make a different sound, and it needs to be made from the middle of the throat. Okay, so but well done, really good. You read really nicely over here. Jazakumullah, that was the second verse that we've just done with you. So Jazakumullah G2 108. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next verse now. This verse, let's have a look at what we need to take care of. Okay, so first thing we see over here is an alif at the start of the verse. Okay, now this alif is read with a fatha. Okay, so you may have noticed that it doesn't have a stroke on it. So what happens is that this alif is read with a fatha. Okay, so for now, at this stage, you don't need to know why that is. Perhaps when you go on to more advanced level, you can understand why that is. But for now, just know that this is read with an alif with a fatha on top. Okay, so that's that. And then after that, we can see that we have a mushaddad ra. Okay, and mushaddad ra will join onto the most recent mutaharrik letter, and the letters in between will be ignored in our recitation. So the mushaddad ra will join onto the alif. Okay, so alif will join onto the ra, and we will press down on the ra mushaddad. Okay, so this lam in between will be ignored in our recitation, and this alif will be joined onto the ra. After that, we have a ha sakin. Okay, ha sakin, so it will join onto the ra mushaddad. We must make sure that the ha sound comes from the middle of the throat. After that, we have a vertical fatha on the meme. So 2-second elongation over here, no more, no less. After that, we can see that we have a mushaddad ra. Okay, so this line over here, this third line over here that we're looking at, we see that there's a ra mushaddad. The ra mushaddad will join on to the most recent mutaharrik letter. Okay, so, and we must ignore the letters in between. Okay, so the Ra Mushaddad will join on to this Noon. Okay, you can see this Noon is the most recent mutaharrik letter because it has a kasra underneath it. So Ra Mushaddad joins onto this Noon and we must press down on the Ra Mushaddad. Then we add the Fatha on the Ra for 1 second. So we can see that Ra Mushaddad also has a Fatha. So we will pronounce that after we press down on the Ra, and we will pronounce the Fatha for 1 second. Okay? Then at the end of the verse, we can see that we're pausing on the Meme. So the Kasra underneath the Meme will become a Sukoon. We also see that at the end of the verse, there is a Ya Mad before the pause. So just like there was at the end of the verse before. So there is a Ya Mad before the pause, which means that we can stretch that mud for at least 2 seconds, but we can also stretch for 4 seconds or 6 seconds. So that's what we need to look out for in this verse. So let's do some practice. Okay, so can we have another student on the mic, please?
Yep, G2205.
Jazakumullah. G2 205. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Alhamdulillah, that's really good to hear. So we're going to go through the second verse with you now. This is the third verse of this surah. Okay, so I'm going to recite and then I'd like you to recite after me. If you could just read Tawud and Tasmiyah for me first, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Excellent, good. Now over here, we're going to read it as Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
الرحمن الرحيم.
Okay, remember that this Ra also has a Fatha on it, okay? So when we join the Noon to the Ra Mushaddad, we do so with force and with pressing down on the Ra, but then also remember the Fatha after that. So one more time. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
الرحمن الرحيم.
Excellent. Well done. Really, really nicely read. Okay, I'm going to choose you again, G2205 in a bit, but I'm just going to go through the next verse and show you all the things that we need to look out for, okay? So the next verse after that, what we need to look out for is the first thing that there is a vertical fatha on the meme, okay? So as we know, vertical fatha needs to be given 2 second timing. So no more, no less. Then we see a bit later on in this verse that there is a vaw sakin. Okay, we can see vaw sakin and letter before has a fatha. Okay, so because that has a fatha, that makes this a vaw lean. Okay, it turns into a vaw sakin to a vaw lean. And vaw lean needs to be pronounced for 2 seconds. Okay, so it's really important that we're spending 2 seconds on this as well. Then over here, we can see that we have a mushaddad dal. Over here, dal with a shadda, mushaddad dal. And mushaddad letters join onto the most recent mutaharrik letter, and we must ignore the letters in between. So, mushaddad dal joins to the meme because the meme is the most recent mutaharrik letter. We have to press down on the pronunciation of dal as well, okay? Because it's a mushaddad dal. Then at the end of the verse, before that, we see that we have a ya mad. Okay, over here we have a ya sakin, letter before has a kasra, so it's a ya mad. Normally, we would read that for 2 seconds, okay? We have to pause at the end of this verse on the noon, and the kasra on the noon becomes a sukoon, okay? And then at the end of the verse, the mud is just before a pause, so it has to be read for 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds. Okay, so normally if this was a simple ya mad and we weren't pausing after that, it would only be read for 2 seconds. But because it's at the end of the verse, we can read it for 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds. Okay, so let's do some reading practice. If you could have G2 205 on the mic again, please.
Yep. G2205. Please
Assalam.
unmute.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to read this verse with me as well. Okay, so we've already read Tawun and Tasmiyah, so let's carry on. Maliki yawmiddin.
Maliki yawmiddin.
Excellent, well done. Make sure for this vowel you're spending 2 seconds on this, okay? So one more time. Maliki yawmiddin.
Maliki yawmiddin.
Excellent, well done, really nicely read. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Okay, so let's do these 3 verses. Okay, so let's start from here. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Is G2205 still on the mic?
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Excellent, good, well done. But make sure that whenever you see a vertical fatha, you're spending 2 seconds on that, okay? So no less than that, please. Yeah, so start one more time.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Excellent, good. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
Excellent, good. Maliki Yawmiddin.
Maliki Yawmiddin.
Excellent, well done. Really nicely read. Jazakumullah G2205. Discipline in charge, yeah, is that okay? Did you have a question?
Yes. Yes. I mean, no.
No? Okay, that's fine, no problem. Jazakumullah for reading. And discipline in charge, if you could have G2108 back on the mic. They didn't get to read much.
Okay. G2108, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, G2108. Okay, yeah, unmute.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Okay, so you only got to read one verse of this surah, so I want you to read a little bit more, okay? So let's start from this beginning, okay? So repeat after me. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Excellent, good. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
Good, well done. But make sure you're spending 2 seconds for the vertical fatha. One more time. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
Excellent, good. And then one more verse. Maliki Yawmiddin.
Maliki Yawmiddin.
Excellent, well done, mashallah. Really, really nicely read. Jazakumullah G2108. Okay, So we've covered the first 4 verses of Surat Al-Fatiha, and mashallah, everybody read really nicely. And like I said, this is a surah that we're all very much familiar with, and I'm sure we all know it off by heart. But sometimes what happens is that because we've done it and we've read it so many times and we've listened to it so many times, we forget to pay close attention to the actual pronunciation of the surah. Okay, so that's why we're looking through this surah in particular today, and then inshallah in future class, we will carry on with this inshallah. Okay, so let's get back to the next part of our class. And what we're going to have a look at next is some hard words. Okay, so on your screen in front of you, you can see 3 words from the Holy Quran, which are slightly more difficult to pronounce. Okay, and having a look at these 3 words, you might be thinking, oh, they look really difficult, or I might not be able to pronounce them, but not to worry at all. Inshallah, we'll go through each one of these words, and we'll split them down for you and break them down for you so that it's a bit more easier to pronounce. Okay, so if you could have our first student on the mic.
Yep, G2212.
G2212. Assalamu alaikum. G2212.
Okay, I'll choose another student. G2213.
G2213.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this first word with you, and we're going to split it and we're going to break it down a little bit, because as you can see, it looks quite confusing, a lot of letters and a lot of joining included in this word. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start from here. So if you could follow along with me, and we're going to read Dawud and Tasmiya. So أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Excellent, good. So the first 2 letters, you can see that the alif has a dhamma and mim has a fatha. So we're going to say these 2 simply. Uma.
Uma.
Excellent, well done. So this is where it gets slightly more difficult, because as you can see, there's a lot of letters of meme. So you can see that there's 4 letters of meme over here that need joining. Okay, so what we're going to do now, first thing, we're going to join this meme to this meme mushaddad. Okay, and we know in the we've had a look at this rule that whenever we see a meme mushaddad, we have to produce a special sound. Can you tell me what that sound is called? Can you remember? G2213, are you still there?
Oh yeah, it's called a gunna sound, and we do it for 2 seconds when there's a meme mushaddad.
Excellent, well done, really detailed answer. Jazakumullah for that. Okay, so that's why whenever we see a meme mushaddad, we have to produce the gunna sound. So as you can see, we have a gunna sound over here that needs to be made, and over here we have a meme with a kasratain. So whenever we're joining this to this meme mushaddad, what we'll do is we'll take 1 stroke of this kasra and join it to the meme mushaddad. Okay, so we're going to pronounce these 2 as mim mi.
Mimmi.
Excellent, well done. And we have to hold that sound for 2 seconds. Okay, one more time. Mimmi.
Mimmi.
Excellent, good. Now after this, we have another meme mushaddad. This time it has a fatha. Okay, so let's join that sound together now. Mim, mim, ma.
Mimma.
Excellent, good, well done. Now after this meme mushaddad with a fatha, we have a noon sakin. Okay, now but straight after that, we also have a meme mushaddad with a fatha on top. So what happens here is we'll go back to our rules of assimilation or idgham, which tell us that we ignore this noon sakin in our recitation and we straight away join this mim mushaddad to this mim mushaddad over here. Okay, so that's the rule. Ignore this noon sakin, joining this mim to this mim over here. Okay, now this mim mushaddad has a fatha on it, so we're going to join that sound to the sound that we've just made. Okay, so follow along with me, please. Mim, mim, mam, ma.
Mim, mim, mamma.
Excellent, good. So it gets slightly confusing, but you did really well. One more time. Listen carefully, okay? Mim, mim, mamma.
Mim, mim, wait, mim, 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 mamma.
Yeah, well done. So at the end, it's a mamma sound, okay? So mim, mim, mamma.
Mim, mim, mamma.
Excellent, perfect, well done, really nicely read. And then at the end, we have an ayn and a kaf, both with a fatha on top. So we're going to say aka.
Aka.
Excellent, good, well done. So all together, shall we try? Uma mim mim mamma aka.
Oh, mum, oh, wait, oh, mamma, aka.
Well done, good. So difficult word to recite, but let's split these two separately, okay? And then these two can come separately. And then this in the middle, you can try and say all together, okay? So one more time. Uma,
Uma,
mim, mim, mamma.
mim, mamma,
Aka.
aka.
Excellent, well done. So I hope everybody at home has also been reading along with us, because this is a difficult word. And with practice, inshallah, you can all get it perfectly, okay? So what I want you to do after class is I want you to try and say this all together, okay? So we're running a bit out of time, so I won't be able to go through it again with you, but I want you to, after class, try and go through this word all together. Okay, so I'll say it all together one more time, and then I want you to, after class, have a go yourself, okay? Uma mim mim ma'aka. Okay, so that's the whole way to say this whole word. But well done, excellent, really, really good try, G2213. Jazakumullah. Okay, so if you could have another student on the mic, please.
Yeah, could we have G2164, please?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
G2164.
Jazakumullah. G2164.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. So you've been chosen to read this next word with us now. And this word over here is what's been highlighted, especially in this word, is this waw with the kasra and this ta with the sukoon. Okay, so can you tell me what's special about this ta sakin? A special rule that we have to apply over here? Can you tell me? Do you remember the qalqala rule? Yeah, do you remember that rule that we've gone through in the past? The qalqala rule? It's okay if you don't remember. Okay, so the rule is that there are certain letters where if they have a sukoon on top of them, then we have to produce a jerk sound when we say those, okay? And the letter ta is one of the qalqala letters, okay? So when we land on this letter, we have to produce a bouncing sound. So when we join it to the waw, we have to produce a bouncing sound, okay? And because it's a sakin letter, it will join onto most to the most recent mutaharrik letter, which, like I said, is the waw. Okay, so let's start with the alif. Alif with a fatha, a. Excellent. Now over here, we're joining the waw to the ta, producing bouncing sound for this ta. Okay, witl. Good. Awitl. Excellent. Over here, we have a ra with a fatha, ra. Excellent. Then we have the letter ha, which is made from the middle of our throat. We have a dhamma on it, followed by a vaw mud. Okay, so we have to stretch our sound out for 2 seconds for this. Hoo. Okay, really try to make that sound from the middle of your throat. Hoo. Okay, and then this is who. Excellent. So these two letters, they sound slightly similar, but this is made from the bottom of our throat and this sound is made from the middle of our throat. So you really need to hear that difference in your recitation, okay? So let's try again. Awitrahuhu. Excellent. Good. Well done, mashallah. Jazakumullah for your participation, G2164. If you could have another student on the mic, please.
Could we have G2232?
G2232. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Okay, how are you today?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. So we're going to practice this last word with yourself. This is one of the hard words. So we're going to start with this first bit. So this is min.
Min.
Excellent. It's a clear noon sound because the next letter afterwards is a letter of the throat, like we know. Okay. Then we have who.
Who.
Excellent. Now over here, we have a meme with a fatha. And then we have a lam mushaddad over here, okay? Lam mushaddad joins onto the most recent mutaharrik letter, so it joins onto this meme with a fatha, okay? Then after this, we have a hamza sakin, okay? Now we also have a vowel over here, but can you tell me, is it the sound of the hamza or the vowel that we have to make?
The hamza.
Hamza, excellent. So hamza has a sukoon on it. Whenever we see a hamza with a sukoon on it, we have to produce a slight jerk sound. Okay, so this bit will be mallu.
Mallu.
Excellent. And then over here we have a lam with a dhamma, lu.
Lu.
Excellent. And then at the end over here, we have a hamza with a dhamma, u.
U.
Excellent. So all together, minhu mallu, lu'u.
Minhu mamlu'u.
Excellent. Well done, mashallah. Really nicely read. Jazakumullah G2232.
Oh, could my brother G2231 read?
Okay, perhaps later on. Okay. So right now we're going to move on to our next segment. But Jazakumullah for reciting. Okay. So that concludes our hard words for today's class. So those were the three, and I want you to, after class, please try and practice those hard words. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to our next practice text. If we could mute G2232, please. Jazakumullah. So our next practice text is Surah At-Takallum, and this is a surah that we've been covering this week. And in yesterday's class, you finished off with verse number 20. So we're going to carry on from verse number 21 now. Okay, so if you could have a student on the mic, please.
It could be have G2122.
Jazakumullah. G2122. Assalamu alaikum. G2122. Can you hear me? Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah, could we have G2247?
G2247. Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. I think we have 2 students unmuted, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay, so who do we have on the mic? Can you tell me your ID?
I think I'll choose another student. Could we have G2184, please?
G2184. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Okay, so we're going to start from this verse number 21 now. And a few things to look out for in this verse over here. First thing is this, on this letter ta, we have a kasratain underneath it. Okay, so whenever we see a tanween, so kasratain is tanween, we have to look at the next letter to see if it's a letter of the throat. So the next letter over here is ayn. Can you tell me, is that a letter of the throat?
It's a letter of the throat.
Yes, it is. Excellent. So that means that over here we have to make a clear pronunciation, clear sound we have to make over here. Okay. Now carrying on, after that we have a noon sakin. So just like we did for tanween, for noon sakin we also have to look at the next letter to see if it's a letter of the throat. So dal, is that a letter of the throat?
No.
No, it's not. Well done. So when we join the ayn to the noon, we have to produce a nasal sound over here, holding it for 2 seconds over here. Okay. Now at the end of this verse, we see that we're stopping and pausing on the noon. Okay. Noon has a kasratain underneath it. Can you tell me what that will change into when we're pausing?
Guinea.
Okay. So can you tell me what stroke it will change into, this kasratain?
Moon.
A sukoon, yes, well done. So it will turn into a sukoon. So we'll read it with a sukoon when we end. Also, be careful, be mindful that there is a ya mud. Okay, this is a ya mud. It appears just before we're pausing. So when we're saying this, we can say it for 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds. Okay, so that's a rule that we've looked at previously as well. So let's go through this verse quickly. So can you read Tawud and Tasmiyah for me now?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Good, well done. Okay, so this is going to be read as ذي قوة عند ذي العرش مكين.
ذي قوة عند ذي العرش مكين.
Excellent, good, well done, really good pronunciation. Over here, remember this noon sakin, because the letter after is not a letter of the throat, we have to spend about 2 seconds on this noon sakin. Okay, inda. Excellent, good, well done. Mashallah, really nicely read. And we're going to carry on to the next verse now. Now in this verse over here, we can see that we have a tanween underneath this ayn. Okay, so just like we did before, we have to look at the next letter to see if it's a letter of the throat. So is this letter the letter of the throat?
No.
Good, well done. It's not. So just like we did over here, we have to produce a sustained nasal sound over here for 2 seconds when we read this. Okay, now straight after the tha, we also have a mim mushaddad. So mim mushaddad, can you tell me what rule I have to apply over here?
Summa.
Good. So what you did there was a ghunna sound, right? So mim ghunna sound is something we have to apply over here. And then at the end of the verse, same rules apply as it did before. We're ending on the sound of a noon sakin, and we have a ya mud over here, so we can elongate for 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds because it appears right before we need to take a pause. So this verse will be مطاع ثم أمين.
متكئ إن سماء مني.
Okay, at the end it's going to be Ameen.
Amin.
Excellent. Good. Well done. Now, one thing I'd like you to take care of is that whenever there's a fatha, kasra, or dhamma, make sure you're only spending 1 second on it and no longer than that. Okay, so I understand that if you're thinking about the next letter or what the next rule is, you might just carry on with that sound. And then what that does is it elongates the sound for a bit too long. So for example, over here, this meme simply has a dhamma. So it's only going to be held for 1 second. Mu.
Mu.
Excellent. This over here is an alif mad. Okay, it's an alif mad because the letter before has a fatha. So we have to elongate for 2 seconds over here. Muta.
Muta.
Excellent. In.
In
Thamma amin.
Sama Amin.
Excellent. Well done. Really nicely read. Jazakumullah for your help. G2184. Jazakumullah. Allah Hafiz. Let's have another student on the mic, please.
Okay, could we have G2228, please?
G2228. Assalamu alaikum. G2228. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'll choose another student. Could we have G2130?
G2130.
Mhm.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well as well. Jazakumullah for asking. We're going to start from this verse over here now. Okay, now in this verse over here, one thing I'd like you to take care of is this Jim Sakin over here. Can you tell me why this is important? What rule we have to apply over here?
We have to apply the kalkala.
Excellent. Qalqala rule. Well done. So bouncing sound when we land on this Jim Sakin. Okay. Now at the end of this verse, we have to stop and pause on the noon. So this kasratain, it becomes a sukoon. Okay. And just before that, we see that there's a vowel mud over here. This is a vowel mud. So what we can do is we can stretch that for 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds because it is found at the end of the verse. So that's another rule that we have to take care of. So let's start. Read Thousand Tasmiyah for me first, please.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Excellent. وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونٍ.
وما صاحبكم بمجنون.
Excellent. Good. Well done. Over here, sod is a thick and heavy sound. So, saw. Yeah, good. So we're going to round our mouth when we say that. Over here, the letter ha is one of the letters that we have to make from the middle of our throat. So, he. Good. وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ.
وما صاحبكم.
Excellent. So one more time, all together now this verse. وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونٍ.
وما صاحبكم بمجنون.
Excellent. Good. Well done. Let's carry on to the next verse now. In this verse, this dal sakin is highlighted. Can you tell me why?
Because it has a sukoon.
Yes, it has a sukoon. So what rule am I applying here?
Kalkala.
Excellent. Perfect. And then at the end of this verse, again, we're stopping on the noon. Noon has a kasra. Can you tell me what that changes into?
That changes into sukoon.
Excellent. Good. And just before that, we have a ya mud. Okay, so again, a letter of mud found at the end of the verse. So how many seconds can I pronounce that for?
2 seconds.
Or
or 5.
Okay, so the answer is 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds. Okay,
Okay.
so any of those timing we can apply over here. So let's start. وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ بِالْأُفُقِ الْمُبِينِ.
وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ بِالْأُفُقِ الْمُبِينِ.
Excellent, good, well done. Good sound of the qalqala over here. Excellent, let's carry on. Now in this verse over here, obviously we have to take care of our short strokes, we have to take care of our long strokes, our letters of mud. At the end of this verse, we're stopping on the noon. Noon has a kasratain, so this becomes a sukoon when we're stopping. We also have a ya mud over here, just like we've seen at the end of each of the verses we've just recited. There is a letter of mud found at the end of the verse, so we can spend 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds on that as well. So let's start. وَمَا هُوَ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ بِضَنِينٍ.
وَمَا هُوَ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ بِضَنِينٍ.
Good, excellent, well done. This letter Ain is made from the middle of the throat. So can you try that sound for me? Alal.
Alal.
Excellent, well done. And this letter Dha is a thick and heavy sound. Bidani.
Bizani.
Okay, really thick and heavy sound we're making there. Bidani.
Bizani.
Excellent, good, well done. Let's carry on to the next verse. In this verse, we can see over here, this noon, it has a kasratain underneath it. Okay, it's slightly merged in the text, but it's a kasratain. Okay? Now this kasratain joins onto this, this noon joins onto this ra mushaddad. Okay, so when that happens, what happens is that only one stroke of the kasratain is taken and joined onto the ra mushaddad. And of course, any letter which is a mushaddad letter needs to be pressed down on when it's read. So when we join it, the ra mushaddad needs to be pressed down on. Okay, and at the end of the verse, Mim is the letter that we're stopping on. It has a kasratain. It will become a, can you tell me?
A sukoon.
Excellent. There is also a ya mud over here. So this ya mud can be pronounced for 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds, like we've been saying previously. So let's start. وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَيْطَانٍ رَجِيمٍ.
وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَيْطَانٍ رَجِيمٍ.
Excellent, good, well done. One thing I'd like you to take care of over here, this is a ya leen. Okay, it's a ya leen because it's a ya sakin, letter before has a fatha. So we need to spend 2 seconds over here. Shay.
Shay.
Excellent. And this letter over here, this is a thick and heavy sounding letter. Ta.
Ta.
Excellent. Shaytanir rajim.
Shaytanir rajim.
Excellent. Well done. Really nice. Read one more time this whole verse now. وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَيْطَانٍ رَجِيمٍ.
وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَيْطَانٍ رَجِيمٍ.
Excellent. Good. You're doing everything right, but you're not spending long enough on this ya leen. Okay, so how many seconds do you need to spend here?
2.
2 seconds, yes. So you know how long to spend, but make sure that when you're reading it, you're spending 2 seconds over here. Okay? Shaytan.
Shaytan.
Good, well done, mashallah. Really nicely read. Make sure you pay close attention to all the things that I've said to correct, okay? But otherwise, well done, really nicely read. Jazakumullah. Al-Hafiz, let's have another student on the mic, please.
Yeah, could we have G2171, please?
G2171.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you? G2 171.
Yes,
How are you doing today? Are you okay?
yes, I am.
Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah.
That's good to hear. So we're going to carry on from here. So could you read Dawud and Tasmiyah for me, please?
Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Excellent. Well done. So I'm going to read it and I'd like you to recite after me. فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ
فأين تذهبون؟
Excellent. Good. Well done. So we're spending 2 seconds over here because this is a yaleen. Okay. And then at the end of the verse, this fatha becomes a sukoon and we have a vowel mud over here, which we can spend 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or 6 seconds on. So we've just done that. Well done. Let's carry on. Now in this verse over here, we have a noon sakin. Okay. So the letter after this noon sakin is a ha. So can you tell me, is this a letter of the throat?
Yes.
It is. Well done. So it means that this noon will be a clear noon sound. Okay. Over here, the next thing I want to point out, over here we have a lam mushaddad. This comes under your rules of assimilation. We have a lam mushaddad, letter before has a dhammatain. So what happens over here is that there will be no nasal sound and this ra will join onto this lam mushaddad and only one stroke of the tanween will be taken. So only one of this dhamma will be taken in our recitation. Rulli, like that. Okay. Well done. So let's start all together. In huwa illa dhikrul lil alamin.
Okay. إن هو إلا ذكر للعالمين.
Good. Well done. One more time. إن هو إلا ذكر للعالمين.
Okay. إن هو إلا ذكر للعالمين.
Excellent. Well done, mashallah. Really nicely read. Okay. So let's quickly carry on to the next verse. And let's see if we have time. Okay. Over here. Okay, I think that's where we're going to leave it actually now, because I think we're going to run over time if we carry on. Okay, so we didn't manage to complete the surah today, but inshallah we'll try and finish it tomorrow. Okay, but jazakumullah G2 171 for your participation.
Jazakallah.
Allah Hafiz.
Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Okay, so that was this surah, and unfortunately we weren't able to finish it in today's class, but inshallah, like I said, we'll try and finish it in tomorrow's class. Okay, so your homework for today's class, let me just bring that up actually 1 second. Okay, so I don't think okay, apologies, 1 second everybody, let me just get the homework up. Discipline in charge, do you have the homework up on your screen?
Yeah, I could share it.
Yes, if you could just share your screen. Okay, jazakumullah. So your homework, everybody, for today's class is to practice Surat Al-Fatiha. So that's what we did in the first bit of our class today, and we completed verses 1 to 4. Okay, so that's what I want you to practice, verses 1 to 4 of Surat Al-Fatiha. Then I'd also like you to practice Surat At-Takallum. Okay, so that was from verse number 21, and let me see, where did we get up to today? We got up to verse number 28. Okay, so 21 to 28 is what I'd like you to cover for practicing of Surat At-Takallum. Okay, so that's chapter number 81. We'd also like you to memorize Surat Al-Kawthar. So that's what you covered on Monday and Tuesday's class, if you want to. Okay, so this is an optional thing that you can choose to do. Okay, also please try and practice the hard words that we've just covered today. So a lot of you, some of you had some difficulty with the hard words, so that's why it's even more important that we try and practice those words as much as possible, which are on your screen in front of you now as well. So that's your homework, and we'll end with the final dua. And if you could have a student on the mic, please.
Yeah, could we have G2247?
G2247.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. So you've been chosen to the final prayer. So if you could repeat after me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم.
اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم.
Excellent. And the translation, please.
O Allah, have mercy on me through the Quran the Great.
Perfect. Jazakumullah, and Jazakumullah to everybody for joining us for today's class. And inshallah, we will speak to you all again tomorrow, same time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.